by Sadat Hassan Manto. Uh, and yeah, I begin my story with the narrative technique that the writer has actually executed. Uh, when we consider the entire section of the story, it is narrated from the perspective of first-person narration by recounting one of the bloodiest incidents that happened in India in 1919, and it is termed as Jallianwala Bagh Massacre or Amritsar Massacre. And when we talk about the story and characters, especially we find the story begins and ends there in a train journey, in which an unnamed narrator called a fellow traveler and another unnamed audience brother, they engage in a conversation, and then conversation is more focused with the very incident. And yeah, these are the major characters, those who have different roles there in this story. uh, Sir Michael O'Dare, Dr. Satyapal, Dr. Saifuddin Kislew, Thaila Kanjar, and Samsad, and then Almas. Let me talk briefly about these people and then their roles in this story. Sir Michael O'Dea, whenever we consider the historical part of the very story, and then just he was the then governor there in Punjab, and to some extent, he has been taken as the catalyst force for causing this massacre. And in case of this Dr. Satyapal and then Saifuddin Kishliu, these are the two somehow we can say nationalist leaders, those who were also acting or those who were showing their a kind of support or solidarity in the against of the enactment of this Roulette Act that was implemented in India in 1919. And Thaila Kanjar is considered the central character in the story. And whenever we give more focus to his character, and definitely we find a kind of sea change or a kind of massive transformation that takes place in his life, because in the beginning that he doesn't have any kind of social identity, and then he simply, even he doesn't have any kind of recognition. But when after he engages there in agitation, and when he is killed by the British soldiers, and then he is taken as a martyr, but only by the people belonging to his community. But whenever we consider the position of the state authority doesn't have any kind of declaration or any kind of record that he is a kind of martyr. And yeah, regarding the Samsad and the Almas, these are the two beautiful sisters of Thaila Kanjar, and by profession they are prostitutes. Now let me tell very shortly about this setting. Yeah, different time dates have been given there in the story, but this is what the major date when the massacre had taken place, 13 April 1919. And place, the exact location is Jallianwala Bagh, and it is there in Amritsar city, and they are in Punjab district. And another place is Breeze, but many places are there in the story. But why I have highlighted these two places the reason is that these two places are so significant. The bridge is the exact spot when where Thaila Kanjar was shot to death. But before he died, he had a kind of determination, and then just he also pulled one of the soldiers down from the horse, and then he strangled the very soldier to death. Now storyline, entire story, I have tried dividing into three segments. The first segment, actually, that it talks about the mass demonstration. First section begins with the mass demonstration, and then just it ends with the suppression of the same demonstration. In the beginning, the narrator takes reference of this Roulette Act, and then actually this story revolves around the incident of this Roulette Act, when it was implemented or when it was enacted. Roulette Act, and there was immediately after the implementation of Roulette Act, there was a big demonstration in Punjab people belonging to different community. And just to show the solidarity and then support, even Mahatma Gandhi was heading towards Punjab, but he was stopped somewhere else, near Palwal. Yeah, it's the name of the place. He was stopped there, and then just his arrest was clarified from the Britishers. Actually, it was done. His arrest was there under the rule that has been, or under the act that was introduced as Defense of Indian Act in 1915. And yeah, when Mahatma Gandhi was moving towards Punjab, and then at the right moment, there was a kind of hailing, or like a reversion or appreciation from the side of all the people belonging to different religions. And yeah, even when the news of Gandhi's arrest was there in Lahore, and then all the businesses came there in halt. And same way, even in Amritsar, there was a kind of strike, and then that strike completely paralyzed the movement of the city. And the narrator, after that, narrator talks about the event of 9th April. And then yeah, on the very day, what happened, one of the order was sent from the side of the governor to the deputy commissioner in Amritsar. And that order clearly stated that two of the leading leaders, especially Dr. Satyapal and then Kishlu, they were to be banished from the district. It was the order, because leaders who were encouraging Indians to involve there in procession and strikes. That's why it was the decision of the governor. But the deputy commissioner knew very well the demonstration was peaceful. There was no any kind of sign of violence. Everything was going smoothly. When it was reported to the governor, but governor was not ready to align with the idea of the commissioner. And then just he came there, and then immediately he changed the decision. And then he said yes, especially those were the people like who were the who were the conspirators behind those strikes and then processions. That's why, on the basis of his decision, the Dr. Satyapal and Kislu were arrested. And then after their arrest, and then people gathered from different places, and then just they tried making a kind of formal request to the commissioner. Deputy commissioner, and then they went to the office of deputy commissioner, and then just they made formal request to cancel the order of banishment. And when the people reached there at the right moment, somehow the commissioner was positive towards their complaint, but the very governor, Michael O'Dare, was not ready to accept that kind of idea. And then immediately he responded to the demonstrators, no, the whatever kind of movement was there, or what kind of activities were there from the side of the demonstrators, all the activities were unconstitutional and then illegal. That was a kind of charge, along with the demonstrators. And then after that, the narrator for the time being, gets a kind of deviation, and then just he recalls the incident. He recalls the very beautiful scenario of the Amritsar. And then he says that once Amritsar was completely a place of sacredness, and then it was the hub of the greatest independence struggle, and then completely it was a place of sanctity. But it was stained with bloodbath. Because of massacre here, somehow the sanctity of the sanctity of very place is desanctified. And then for the desanctification of Amritsar, that he seems a bit critical. At times, when we go through the story, we find him being more critical towards the very event. And then what he says is that not only the Britishers or the colonizers or the English people were responsible for the massacre. Equally, some of the so-called national leaders were also there, who should be responsible, or who should take their part as the culprits, because they also had their hands for the massacre. In this very situation, he becomes more critical. And then after that, they are following the a blame of the Odair. The people were enraged because that movement was not unconstitutional and then illegal. Rather, just yeah, they were thinking of that. The Rowlatt Act was repressive. That's why they were looking for a kind of freedom. And then, yeah. Listening to the Odair, and then again they start the mass demonstration was led towards the civil lines, and then civil lines was the right place, or it's a kind of residential area for these Britishers, and the Britishers means the elites, and then along with their toadies, and then they went over there, and then just they were looking for a kind of free release of their leaders without imposing any kind of condition on their release. They wanted a release of their leaders. And but what happened when they reached near to the very civil lines, and then just their separation began from the side of the soldiers. Almost 20 soldiers were guarding the very place, and then they were making a kind of patrolling over the bridge. And when the demonstrators were so closer to the bridge, and then just they started opening firings, and then just their intention was that to disperse the mass. Whenever the soldiers, 20 soldiers, around 20 soldiers started shooting carelessly, and then just thousands of people were there, and then there was a kind of big stampede, and then just people were running from one place to another place for to save their lives. And then at the right moment, even the narrator was one of the demonstrators there, and then he was also involving, but accidentally what happened, that he happened to fall there in a drain where there was there was not enough water, but he fell there, and someone pushed him, and then he fell. And then, but from that very place, he was able to make the very good. Yeah, he looked, or that he saw the very brutal side. Brutal side was that many demonstrators were panic stricken, and then just some of them were about to die, and then just other people were seriously injured. But all the soldiers, those who were mounting on the horses, they were making a kind of jokes, and then they were just casting a kind of sarcastic laugh over the very situation. And then it was observed very closely by the narrator. And the narrator, after a kind of normal, it's not the normal situation, but the situation was somehow calm. And then after that, he came out from the drain, and then just started observing around, and then he found a group of person, okay, like 30 to 40 people were gathering somewhere else, and then in the mass, and then they were heading towards the civil lines, and then just they were pelting stones or hurling stones towards the civil lines. And then some of the panes of the window panes were broken. At the right moment, the narrator happens to hear a kind of conversation among four youths, and the first youth spoke out that he wanted to topple, or he wanted to demolish the statue of the queen. And then at the right moment, and the second demonstrator said that it was not the good idea. The good idea was that they had to set some of the police station on fire, so that that brutality could be controlled. And then a third youth said that apart from that, even some of the banks are to be set on fire. Whatever ideas were there from different three youths. And then like the fourth speaker was not ready to accept their ideas and proposal, and then just he came up with a new idea, and then simply he said, yes, these are not the things we need to do. If we want success in our demonstration, simply we need to confront directly with the soldiers that who are making a kind of suppression over us. And it was none other than Thaila Kanjas, and he had made a kind of bold decision, and the decision was that, and he wanted to confront directly with the suppressors. Yeah, there the first segment of the story text is ending, and now second segment begins with the complete description of Thaila Kanjar, how he involved there in mass demonstration, and then how he acted, and then finally how he gained his martyrdom. The Thaila Kanjar's characters, by his character, actually that he is a son of prostitute, and then just he's good for nothing else, and then even he doesn't have any kind of better identity over there somehow, and then that he is fond of gambling, and then like drinking. That sort of characteristics are there with this person. But when he engages there in the mass movement, and then just he feels that, yeah, like he doesn't have any kind of fear with the bullets, and then just with a kind of bravery, with a kind of courage, and then he starts marching on towards the soldiers, so where they have been guarding the civil lines. And then time and again, narrator observes the very bold kind of a movement of this Kanjar, and then he starts giving warning. You don't have to go over there. That's the zone where you are going to invite your death. But he doesn't listen anything else from the side of the narrator, and then he starts moving, and then just yeah, but he gives a kind of sarcastic laugh in the sense of that one, to insult the cowardice kind of thinking, or cowardice kind of the sort of mentality actually the narrator had. Narrator was hiding somewhere else. And then after that, when he starts moving towards the soldiers, what happens? The first fire was opened. But in the later part of the story, it says that, yeah, the first bullet was there on his chest. And then though he is wounded, he doesn't give off his hope. And then just immediately he turns back and then makes a kind of calling to his colleagues, and then he says, "Don't run away, and then come with me." It's time and again he says that. And then yeah, and then he chanting slogans, different slogans against the British rulers, and then he starts moving. And then yeah, during that period, and then third and then second and third bullet were fired. When the second bullet was fired, and then just he couldn't control the a kind of instability is there in his body, and then he threw his arms back. But he swiftly moved to the very place where two of the soldiers, actually two at the right moment, two of the soldiers were guarding the bridge. And then just he happened to reach over there, and then just he and then when thought fire was done, and then the narrator could see the complete that he was completely yeah, his body was completely drenched with blood. And but he managed to reach there, and then just he close to one of the soldiers, and then just the soldier one of the soldiers was pulled down. And whenever one of the soldiers was pulled down on the ground, and another soldier who was mounting on the horse, and then he started fighting. And then there was a volley of shots. That this is what the very terminology has been used by the writer, volley of shots. But to see, but what happened that along with his death, that he was able to kill one of the soldiers there. And after that, what happens? Yeah, and the narrator couldn't see when there was a kind of volley of shots, and then just continuous firing was there, and then couldn't see, and then he got fainted. The narrator got fainted, and then he couldn't remember. He did not know anything else that happened. And then after he regained his consciousness, and then other demonstrators were there just to narrate the story. And then demonstrators narrated, yeah, there was a kind of big riots there, and then just in that riots, and then the demonstrators were able to demolish the statue of the queen, and then they were able to set fire into the banks, and then even they killed 5 to 6 Europeans there. And after that, after hearing the narration from the side of the demonstrators, the narrator starts revealing the fact of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, how it actually happened. Actually, just it was, yeah, though it was the causative event was the implementation of the Roulette Act. But apart from that one, the narrator says, yeah, it was a kind of revenge. It was a kind of revenge from the side of the British rulers to the Indian people, those who killed 5 or 6 Europeans in that very riots. Yeah, and then in the very position again, he seems a bit critical, and then he talks about the official history as well. According to the official history, and then the death rate, like 25,000 people were gathering there in Jallianwala Bagh to protest against the British rulers. But at the right moment, with the order of this Michael order, and then the firing was open, and then just many people died over there. But when the history was written from the perspective of these British rulers, and then only they recorded 1,000 people died, and then 3,000 to 4,000 people were seriously injured. It means then just the narrator becomes a bit critical because among 25,000 demonstrators, the bullets were straying, the bullets were fired carelessly, and then just it could not be the right data that the British history, British rulers actually recorded there in the history. And then after that, he gives a detailed account of Thailand's rise and fall as a demonstrator. Yeah, that he involved there, and then he died whenever his final rite was performed. Even at the right moment, what happened? The narrator says that it is like it is like Thaila was set in a minute, and then just his yeah, burial ceremony was completed in another minute. It was a kind of thing that the narrator says. And then right after his death, and the corpse was handed over to his sisters, and then all many community people were gathering, and then all of them were yes, mourning his death. And then but from the side of the state, it's a kind of unmourned death. The state did not show any kind of concern towards his death, but all the community people were there. And then the narrator says all the community people were shedding the tear of blood, because when they observed the body of Kanjar, it was totally shattered. Mutilated body was there. Body was totally riddled. It means that hundreds of holes were there. There was hardly the part of flesh or a body part could be seen. That's why it was a kind of brutality from the side of the British rulers. And after that, narrator takes very simple reference of the French Revolution. Why he refers this French Revolution is that when the French Revolution was there, in the beginning, in the first phase of the French Revolution, and then just bullet had shot to the prostitute, that she was the person who sacrificed her life in the name of French Revolution. But when the history of French Revolution is read out and then just analyzed, but this kind of record cannot be found. In the same way, when the history, Indian history is written from the perspective of British people, and then just there was no any kind of, even like the Indian nationalist leaders were there, and then they might have contributed for the formation of the Indian history, but they totally forget the contribution of a demonstrator who was a son of a prostitute. Yeah, just to show that, it means that just to show the very situation that actually he did not have any kind of social recognition, or he did not have a real social standing. That's why his contribution was blurred, or his contribution was neglected. This is what the idea. And then third segment of the story, second segment ends over there. And in third segment, it talks everything about about the situation of Thailand's sisters. After Thailand's sisters, and then sisters were taken to English officers. Some of the people were, some of the English soldiers were there, and then just who spied over the survival of Kanja's sisters. And then just as soon as the information was there, along with the English officers, and then just they were forced to be taken there in their offices. And then just a kind of conspiracy was hatched. The conspiracy was that, yeah, they wanted to take revenge with these two sisters. Thinking of that, just by making a kind of conspiracy was that one of the women, European English women, died there in the riots, and then just in retaliation, it is said that these two sisters are called over there, and then they could be tortured. And here too, the writer is a bit critical. When the narrator says that the English rulers wanted Kanja sisters in their offices, at the right moment, they did not say they did not send their white soldiers to bring them or to give message to these two sisters. Rather, one of the Indian policemen was chosen, and then he was sent, and then information was given. At the very moment, what he might be thinking of that one, the Indian soldier, Indian policeman might have forgotten his real identity of Indianness, and then just he was just following the instruction of the rulers. That could be the idea that the narrator wants to reveal. And after that, after the sisters were taken, and there was a kind of celebration. That celebration, actually it was termed as merriment. I think that party was thrown from the side of the British rulers, and then just they enjoyed a lot. And then just whenever it was it was after two. It was after two, and then there was a kind of signal given from the side of the English officers. And then as soon as a kind of signal was given to the participants, and especially I think the white soldiers, and then just they started doing some kind of yeah, demoralizing kind of act, or the insulting kind of act. And then just all the soldiers went near to the sisters. And then actually when the sisters came there in their offices, they were in fine dresses, finery kind of wares were there. But after the party was over, and then what happened, their finery wares were torn into pieces, and to some extent they were completely clothless. And just at the right moment, both the sisters seemed so courageous and then so bold. They knew that the Britishers were about to do something wrong, in the against of their will, in the against of their desire. But courageously they spoke out with them in front of the mass, and then they said, yes, we are ready. We are the sisters of Thaira Conjure, and then just you are the killer of my brother. But that we are ready to accept your proposal. What kind of wishes, what kind of desires you people have, we are ready to accept that. Before that, we want a thing to do with the people. That is, we want to spit on your faces. Then you can sully our, yeah, what kind of yeah, we have a kind of dignity, though we are prostitutes, though we are we are not considered like the people having a kind of better social position, that we don't have that dignity. But just even you, if you want to sully, if you want to damage our dignity, definitely that we are ready to accept that. And then but before that, we want to spit it. And then when this incident is narrated, and then like the audience, especially brother, asks a question, and then just what happened to both of the sisters. And then abruptly there was a kind of response from the side of the narrator, and then he says that yes, both of them are shot to death. But whenever he has spoken out the very idea, and then just what is speculated from the side of the audience is that the narrator is not speaking the truth. He is making a kind of twist, and then he asks, yeah, I think that you might be making a kind of twist at the end of the story. But what actually happened to that? And then he says that, yeah, he doesn't speak anything else, but a kind of bitterness was there at the time of his speaking. And then just he says that those bitches defiled the value of martyrdom of their brother. But the final ending of the story, whether it says that both the sisters were killed, or that they fulfilled the desires of the Britishers, and then after that they were released. But it doesn't, yeah, the story actually doesn't speak anything else. Yeah, in this way the story text is ending. Thank you very much, everyone, for hearing me.
Thank you, Padam. Though you took a lot of time, you went to a great detail. And now we have got the final presenter, Padam, right?
How many members
No,
are there,
Yes,
Kamal,
yeah.
in final
With great
presenter?
Deepak Lungelti.
Yeah, I would like to invite our Deepak sir just to shed
Okay.
light on the critical perspectives of the story.
Okay. Okay, Deepak, the floor is yours.
Okay.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, you are always
Okay,
audible. You are always audible.
Good evening, teachers. Good evening, friends. And thank you, Padam, sir. And thank you, Arati madam, for providing me the road to write this thematic sort of vehicle in the story of Manto.
Yes.
Well, I am on the verge of this presentation session. It means mine will be like Mojaro presentation.
Concluding presentation of this semester.
Moizaru.
Mojaro presentation. So, before I tell you something, let me tell at least 3 things which is related to the author, Manto. Manto was writing At the time when India was facing some kind of political kind of ups and downs, some kind of political transition, some kind of confusions, let's say, some kind of unrest. That's why a critic, Sarika Sharma, comments him as best, his writings as best of writings from worst of times. So if you see
Yes.
the historicity where Manto was writing,
Mm.
you know, it shows that whether it is 1990s event that we are discussing now, or whether let's say it is 1947 partition, violence. So Manto was a man who was writing the things from very vivid point of view, let's say, very objectively, very critically, with some kind of judgmental sort of things in his writings.